Good morning, everyone. Hello. Welcome. I know I did the official welcome last night, but I see some other new faces who couldn't join us yesterday evening, so I'm so happy and grateful to have you all here. It's been a long 2 years, and it's so nice to see everyone in person, so thank you for that. One of my colleagues joked that this was like my prom or my high school reunion, and I really, that's what it feels like, except I don't have to sneak around to have alcohol, right? So it's better. I am Asima Jansfeld. I lead the Highline Network, and along with my colleagues Anna and Josue, we are your hosts for the next 2 days of learning and inspiration, and hopefully the launch of many new relationships for you all. So our symposium this year is focusing on the role that technology can play to create inclusive open spaces. So you'll get to hear from so many fantastic experts in this space. It may not be your comfort zone, and let's face it, for most park professionals, it's not, but that's the point. We want to expand your toolboxes and inspire you all on the potential of how technology can support and grow human engagement and not reduce it. So that's our theme, but we still have a good amount of content on the nuts and bolts of our work. There's workshops on community engagement, on building equity in our organizations, panels on radical accessibility, and a keynote talk later today on the arts and cultural aspects of our work. So there's really something for everyone here. Some of you have been to every network convening since our inception in 2016, and for some of you, it's the first time joining us. But what remains true is that everyone in this room is here for a reason. This is invite only by design. You are all either leading the development of a public space. I noted last night that we have 60 infrastructure reuse projects represented over the next 2 days from 40 different cities, which is really exciting. And they represent all stages of development. And it comes probably as no surprise that I believe very strongly in the power of networks. And while technically our day-to-day is in support of the 37 network members that are officially part of our network, this symposium gives us a chance to widen that community. We're 250 people strong over the next 2 days, and each and every one of you does something that can inspire your neighbor, teach them something new, and can build upon their own work. So you're all here for a reason. It is one of our team's greatest joys to bring you all together for this experience. Okay, before we get to our keynote, I want to highlight some of the amazing people that will be supporting you over the next couple of days. You'll see most of them in Blackboard Spaces t-shirts over the next few days. I'm not sure if most of them are still working around, but if I have any of the Highline teams in the room, could you raise your hands? You're all working, aren't you? They're not here. So, okay, I will give them a shout out anyway. You may not know that the Highline has a robust, we have a robust youth development and education program, and part of that is employing teens from all over New York City to work at the Highline each year. These amazing humans get to focus on building their workforce skills while supporting the Highline daily work. And this group has been given the opportunity, the ones that you see here today, to join us here in Miami to continue that work while getting them to learn more about the infrastructure reuse field. They've spent months preparing, and if you have any questions on the event, you can reach out to any of them to help, and I encourage you to introduce yourself and tell them more about your work as well. I must also get our Urban Health Solutions partners to raise their hand. If you haven't met Anna Marie, Sarah, Isabel, Sol, and Katie, you must not leave without doing so. We knew we needed smart, savvy partners based in Miami to help us plan the event, and UHS has proven to be just that. We needed a smart, strategic thought partner, and they've done that and more. They know everyone, literally. They can get us reservations at Ball and Chain at the last minute. Thank you so much. They connected us to so many of you, and they taught us how to maneuver Miami culture, and on top of all of that, they are helping us execute this event flawlessly. So thank you to UHS. Okay, so let's get started. I first want to welcome Jen Patrick from the JPB Foundation to the stage. As many of you may know, funding a network is hard. Its impact can be very hard to measure, and it takes time. We are so thankful that since our inception, the JPB Foundation has seen the value of networks and has supported our work since the very beginning. Welcome, Jen. Great. Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Wow, this is such a great room of great people. My name is Jen Patrick. I'm the Senior Program Officer with the JPB Foundation. I oversee the Green Infrastructure Portfolio, which is one of 4 different portfolios under our Environment Program, the other 3 being Environmental Health, Environmental Justice, and Energy, which are all connected. And it's really just such an exciting moment to be here with all of you. I was asked to answer 3 questions, so I'll try and be brief, but this is a really great moment for networks and for the Highline Network and for partners, and so I hope you'll let me just say a few words of why we're so excited about the Highline Network and why are networks important. And, how do we see the role of public space and the importance of public space? So at JPB, we envision a thriving future for everyone. And what that means is we see a future that advances justice and opportunity while enabling healthy, resilient communities everywhere. We see a future that has more balance between the natural world and the built environment. Our changing climate demands it. And we see a future that equitably meets our human need to connect with each other and with nature in every community. And so this vision matters because it means that nothing and nobody can be overlooked, including infrastructure that no longer serves the purpose it once did. It requires that we don't abandon infrastructure to sit fallow and become a drain on a community, but rather that communities are able to repurpose their assets for whatever they need them to be, for places of inspiration, recreation, healing, gathering, and the list goes on, and you all know what that list includes. So why are networks important to the JPB Foundation? Well, they've never been more important to us. In the infrastructure reuse field, we are all challenged to confront the realities of how past decision makers and designers have shaped a legacy of racial inequities and how current ones might perpetuate those systems in our cities. And it's going to take all of us to unravel the structural barriers that divide us. Building networks is a key strategy at JPB, and within the green infrastructure portfolio, approximately 80% of our investments go into building networks. Some of those networks are in the room right now, so that's very exciting to see the synergies that are coming together, and that will only increase over time because we're at an unprecedented moment in our country's history. We have never seen the amount of public funding, which is at an all-time high. And we're asking questions of how are we going to meet this moment and take advantage of the opportunity before us. So our answer is through taking our networks to a whole new level. Spreading best practices, sharing key strategies, and aligning with new and old partners like never before, leaning into the federal commitment of Justice 40. And this network plays such a key role in all of that. And it's also important to just highlight, your projects are not for the weary. This is a strong group of people. That you are working on, you have to have years of patience, expertise, negotiation, complicated funding streams, project management, community engagement, political support, and persistence to make these projects a reality. And this network provides support every step of the way. So you all play a really important role in improving the public realm. And we know, we all know, that public spaces can have a tremendous impact on an individual's life, on a family's well-being, and on a community's resiliency. And we all share the desire to create more equity and access to these special places. We all have, I hope, all of us in this room, have been engaged in that magical process of taking a vision and turning it into something that is no longer fantasy, but downright fantastic and real and lasting for all. We know at JPP that it's not only possible to take these initiatives to scale, but we're funding them, and we'll be increasing funding in those efforts to create more green, healthy, and equitable places nationwide. And again, I'm just thrilled to be here with the SEMA and the HLN team and all of you participants who are experts in making our wildest visions a reality. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. And with that, we are on to the main show. In the tradition of our one and only previous Highline Network Symposium, we'd like to open with the local network member host partner showcasing their infrastructure project. Many of you got to walk the Underline yesterday as part of the site visit tour. And if you haven't, hopefully many more of you will do so before you leave, even if it's just to get to our reception tonight. And Meg Daly is a force to be reckoned with and is an inspiration to so many of us in the room. She's an inspiration in how conviction, perseverance, and engaging the right partners can literally change communities. And with that, I'd like to welcome Meg Daly to the stage from the Underline.
Welcome to Miami, everybody. Thank you for coming to we're so excited to have you here. I'm Meg Daly, and I'm founder of Friends of the Underline, and we are a nonprofit that partners with Miami-Dade County, our state, as well as many municipalities to lead this incredible transformational project. I am so full of gratitude to be part of this group. I was part of the 2016 cohort, and to be able to sit in that room with people who inspired me so much, it was sort of like, pinch me, what did I do to get at this table? And I'm really excited to be talking to all of you because your work individually and collectively inspires me personally. I have a lot of thanks in order. I think that Hasima said that the group has been working for a couple of months. It's actually been 2 years to bring us all together. So I'd like to thank Hasima, Mauricio, Ana, and Josue. Can you give them a round of applause? My board members who are here, do we have Daniel and Lucas? Give them a round of applause. Oh, and Lily, who's going to be our moderator. Our pro bono attorney, Daniel Balmori, I'll talk about him a little bit later. My staff, thank you so much for coming. And as well as this partnership that we have, which is so complicated and so beautiful, really led by our district commissioner, Eileen Higgins. You'll be hearing from her, but I really have to give her personally a round of applause and thanks for your leadership. So I want to talk about a little bit about our journey, and everything we do is a journey. And I started the Underline project over a decade ago. I had a bike accident, and I broke both of these arms. I do not recommend it because you're all A-type, right? And not being able to do anything for yourself is very humbling. And after a couple of months of being driven by my husband, my dad, my son to physical therapy, I ended up taking the train, the Metrorail, from my city, Coral Gables. I see our commissioner from Coral Gables. Thank you for coming, Rhonda. And I took it to Coconut Grove and then walked below the train. In that hot summer day, it was July, I saw opportunity. I saw space that hadn't been used before. And there was something about walking and not driving and experiencing your city differently. And I had this big idea. Let's build a 10-mile linear park and trail and gathering space and recreational moment for our community. That'll be easy, right? Okay, you got the joke. What we do is really hard work, and I was truly inspired by the High Line, which I had visited a few years prior, and that ability to have a space that does many things, not just one thing, really led me to lead this project as a full-time volunteer for 9 years now, and in those 9 years, I went gray. I have 2 marriages, 3 grandchildren, and 2 deaths. Right? So a lot's happened. And we've also had COVID. And we have a new world and I think a new frontier that we can all embrace. So I'm going to take you on this journey that I went through. Oh, by the way, where you're looking at is what I looked at below the train tracks. And this is called the current empath. And we are repurposing everything edge to edge into this community park and really community asset. We have a very bold vision. We have a very active board. I actually chair 2 boards. The Friends are the fundraisers. The Conservancy is the operating board, a public-private board. And we want to be part of transforming our mobility, our public health, our community connectivity, as well as equity. So it's a big mission, and we have a lot of work to do. We believe that big projects solve big problems. You are all leaders of transformational projects, and we have an incredible opportunity and obligation to solve these big problems that serve our community's priorities. We don't do one thing, we do many. We don't serve one community, we serve many. And we've polled our community's priorities, and first is safety. And we've done this for 7 years. We've done a lot of listening. Miami-Dade County is one of the most dangerous places to walk and bike in the United States. In fact, the whole state of Florida holds the dubious honor of being the most dangerous state for bicyclists and pedestrians. So providing a safe place for people off-road to bike and walk makes us part of the larger solution. Second, we need to be more resilient. Miami is in the epicenter of climate change, sea level rise, and home to many hurricanes. And we've all seen the damage that can be done by these shock events. Our project supports the environment with 120 acres of new green space, 500,000 plants and trees, offsetting CO2. The whole park adds pollinators, and as green infrastructure, we help to mitigate stormwater. Let's talk about our diversity. Miami is one of the most diverse communities in the country, with 60% of our residents speaking English as a second language. We also serve persons of all abilities and access, which is very personal to me. My youngest brother was born disabled. We are open 24 hours a day, and everyone is welcome. And we serve populations, underserved populations. This is a former rail corridor, and those census tract information is still true today. You have 2 sides of the tracks, and everybody is welcome on the Underline. We also want to make our community healthier. We saw during COVID people walking and biking and hopping on their bikes for the first time to be safe outdoors. We provide that opportunity for thousands of people who live here and visit. We see the Underline as a great connector to neighborhoods and other trail systems. We serve over 250,000 nearby residents, 14,000 businesses, 8 transit stations, 24 schools. We front the University of Miami with its staff, students, and faculty, major hospitals, and anchor institutions. Plus, the entire project will be fully Wi-Fi'd and be Miami's first digital highway. We are all innovators. Every one of you is an innovator, from offering entrepreneurship programs for kids and new startups to massive return on investment from real estate value and tax receipts and job creation, as well as new ways that technology can be used in public spaces. Innovation is fundamental to all our projects, and we'll be talking about that in the next session. A little bit about the Underline. It's 10 miles long. Our first phase is open. Who took the tour yesterday? All right, thank you. Who's going to walk to American Social on the Underline tonight? Great. We look forward to having you there. We have 3 phases. That first phase is open. I'll talk to you a little bit about that. The next phase is under construction. It's 2.25 miles long. The last phase is 7 miles long, and it will be going to the county commission, hopefully award for that construction to begin, with the entire project being completed by 2026. From idea to inception, that's completion in less than 15 years. So that makes us one of the fastest moving projects of its scope in the country. So you're here and you're Miami. Let's talk about what you're going to be seeing. In Brickell Backyard, this first half mile, we've already welcomed 1.5 million visitors. When we're done with the 10 miles, we'll be seeing 9 million visitors a year. 30,000 native plants and trees are in our first half mile, all of them pollinators. 500,000 plants and trees when done. Got to talk about the dogs, because 60% of our visitors have a dog, and we're totally dog friendly. We use 20,000 doggy bags in less than a year, all sustainable. Think about that, 400, almost 500,000 dog bags a year. We're trying to get our heads around that. 12,000 Wi-Fi connections already, and that's just in the first half mile. Looking at 100,000 connections annually, and that's fully free and underwritten by a corporate sponsor, helping with the digital divide, where 30% of our homes do not have Wi-Fi access. We have a $2 million operating budget. It'll be over a $10 million budget once completed. We have 1,000 events a year when done. We're programming 1 out of every 3 days. And we have 4 artworks, looking at 20 artworks when done, so we're in a beautiful, free outdoor gallery. We worked with a fabulous design team. I know Isabel Castilla is in the audience with field operations, designed our master plan as well as the vision for phase 1. It's broken into different rooms where each block has a unique purpose. The first on the top left is the river room. We connect to the Miami River, and its unique feature is we've changed the drainage so all the water drains into the river instead of onto the street or onto itself. It's also, the dogs love it, so do the butterflies. The next picture you see is our gym. This is all sandwiched in between major federal roads. So, you're bringing a park into the community, which was usually, it would be for a dead zone. I saw a renowned architect from Miami the other night, and he said, Meg, I saw the Underline, and it's like bumping. And I'm like, really? I didn't know that. And then he's like, no, Meg, the gym is crazy. I'm like, really? You need to get outdoors more often, because we knew that. Where have you been? The next section is where we connect to transit. And this is a transit hub. We have millions of people just transiting through. It's a harsh condition. They cut through our plant beds, going from that trolley to the bus to Metro Mover, Metrorail, and then bottom left. But we also have ping pong tables. Also, last night in our gym, someone snuck in a ping pong table. So what I love about people is they think of things you never thought of before. Patrice was like, are you okay with that? And I'm, yeah. They're actually playing with a soccer ball. Then you see the Oolite room. So one of the features of our project is that our bedrock is limestone, and where we are is where Flagler had the rail. He picked it because of it being in one of the highest elevations in the county. So we've used that as a feature. Instead of trying to hide from it, we use Oolite seating, and we have rooms named after them. And you'll see our trails. We have a dedicated trail for bicyclists and pedestrians. Let's talk about our programs. Culture, kids programs. We have technology programs. That cute kid in the middle is playing Dig and Learn, which is an AR program that they can have sort of like a gaming to learn about history and place. We have art. That's a mural designed by Edney Jean-Joseph, a local Haitian-American artist, telling the story of Flagler's Rail and bringing the Bahamians here to build it. The cute girl on the bottom left is one and participates in our Family Day. We have entrepreneurship programs for kids and adults. We've launched 18 businesses. Bottom right is our Climate Champs, where you can scan a QR code and learn about the specific features of plant, nature, and resiliency in that place on the Underline. Let me talk about who visits. Another story I love is there's a local politician, to not be named, who said, you know, Meg, I think everybody visiting the Underline lives in a fancy condo drinking a fancy latte. He has not been to the Underline because we have been working with Reimagining the Civic Commons. We do intercept studies. We know who visits. And these are the people of the broader community. It is predominantly Hispanic. A lot of our communications are in 2 languages. It really reflects the people who live outside of the community we live in here, with most of the people making less than $50,000 a year. It is 50-50 male-female, skews a little young, and they're loving our programs because there was nothing to do in this community for families before we got here. Also, what's interesting is that nearly 90% are from greater Miami, but over half of the guests are from outside the immediate neighborhood. So now that you're here and you're going to be seeing it, one of the things you may not also see is that over 60% of our visitors meet someone new. I love that. 35% pick up litter. What does that mean? Is we're building a civic fabric. In this place, if you can build a civic fabric, then you're building a stronger community for future, for our current communities and for future communities. So what you won't see. We talked about it last night. What was it? Listening. So the first thing that we did was listen. And one of the benefits of working with a strong team and strong partners in the county, and including, I didn't mention Miami-Dade County Parks and Recreation, is they said we have to listen first. And we had 9 public meetings and 100 in-person presentations at churches, community organizations, garden clubs, whoever would talk to us and listen to us, schools. We went to elementary schools. And one of the things that we learned consistently was safety was the first priority. Second is nature, and everything else is third. They wanted playgrounds. They wanted separated paths. They wanted butterflies. And you know what? Check. We've done all of it. And those were the ideas of the community, not us thinking we had a better idea. Except for if you look at that picture in the middle, there's that beautiful drawing of trees. Someone said, I want all the trees in straight rows. And someone else wrote, no, I want them to look like they've always been there. So we did that. Everything will feel like it was there before. What you don't see, funding. We all deal with it. And you know what? It's complicated. We have assembled over $140 million in federal, state, county, municipal, and private funds for a project on county land in a designated right-of-way that doesn't allow us to be called a park. And it's managed by a nonprofit with a public-private board. And not only is funding hard to secure, since there are so many projects and so much need and finite funding, sometimes it's hard to keep. But we're scrappy, and in 2018, we applied for a federal build grant for $9 million. And I and the project manager from the county and Daniel Balmori sat at my dining room table and wrote a highly technical build grant, which we didn't get. But we came back again. And the next year, we doubled our ask because we didn't get it the year before. And we met at my dining room table once again, and we were the only trail project in the country in 2019 to get a build grant for $23 million. And I am really proud that it was written with volunteer hours and without a consultant, with your English major, our attorney, and an architect. So think what you can do if you know what you're doing. Operations. I remember that first meeting that we had at that cohort at 2016. Everybody's like, let's talk about operations. I'm like, no, let's talk about money. And they're, let's talk about programs. I want to talk about money. Let's talk about this. I'm like, Meg wants to talk about money. And you know what? Your conversations lifted me up. And everything that I learned that first year has applied to the work we do today. This is a picture of the no-name storm that hit Miami in June. That's what a no-name storm does. 7 feet of storm surge, being on the highest elevation in downtown. When the waters receded, we had mattresses left behind, we had trash cans, we had unmentionables left behind, and everybody was sort of surprised the damage that can be done in a no-name storm. But we were prepared because we have a great team. And, we really got to work very quickly. But I'm telling you something, we've used this first lab as a lot of learning. We are a lab, and we have really harsh conditions. Our park is sandwiched in a very active transfer corridor. We counted over 1.5 million people passing through here in 1 year. And moving forward, we're going to be sandwiched between a federal highway, homes, businesses, and we have to keep it clean. But when people talk about safety, they may have been talking about biking and walking, but we have the challenges of a city, which includes COVID, an uptick in homelessness, trash, and lots of dog poop. So we pay for 24-hour security, 16 hours a day maintenance. Plus there are some plants that the conditions are just too harsh. And we've modified our plant palette, eliminating those that just couldn't thrive. And some of the standards for the trail had to be changed to be more resilient and durable, including our border material as well as lighting. The good news about this picture is that we were ready and cleaned up quickly, and we were the first park in the area to open so people could get outdoors again. Construction. Are you all building right now? Is everybody happy with you? Because if they are, please come tell me your secret sauce. It is very difficult to manage a park, build a park, and also be planning a park. And we're doing all of that. As we build and open the next 2 miles next year and the final 7 miles by 2026, we'll figure out the best way to be under construction while operating. In phase 2, there was a huge public outcry about tree removal to allow for the path, the lighting, and the amenities that everybody wanted. But we had to do that to allow for setback conditions and to build for these beautiful features of the park. Even with a 4-to-1 ratio of new trees to those removed, people were so upset that the City of Miami funding was frozen. I'm talking $15 million, right? Which can jeopardize a whole project because putting this money together is a jigsaw puzzle. So we listened again. And when people were satisfied with our plan and our strategy, and we appealed to the City of Miami Commission many times, the funding was restored. Let's just say we have learned a lot, and we're working hard to improve our communications plan moving forward, and we've added more public meetings in phase 3. You don't see our technology, but it's everywhere. And thanks to a Knight Foundation grant, we studied the use of technology in our public space. And what we discovered is that first we had to have ubiquitous Wi-Fi in order to pioneer any technology. And since phase 1 was already under construction, we had to re-engineer our light poles to allow for Wi-Fi antenna. Hotwire Communications with the county figured out how to do that. That was the installation. But now future phases, we have the plan in our building to have Wi-Fi underground and through the light poles and available to 100,000 people, part of a digital divide solution. And they can use our Dig and Learn applications and our climate champs and so many more things to come. I've talked about what you see, what you don't see. I'm going to talk to you about what we see. Our office looks right onto the Underline. We're open 24 hours a day. We never close. And this is what people tell us. Andrew Millen, who lives 10 miles from here, he's in Dadeland, he says, if you're looking for new friends and engaging with people from all walks of life and all backgrounds, come to the Underline. A parent from Family Day said, "We live 20 miles away, but come here for the kids' programs and the sense of community." Another parent said, "The Underline's phenomenal." Gloria lives nearby, right here in Brickell. We call her Gloria the gardener. Volunteering at Day in the Dirt gives me an opportunity to improve and beautify my neighborhood with greenery and flowers. Alex Larmier, he's a realtor, but he also leads our bike rides. We have community bike rides every month. He says, "My favorite thing about the Underline is that it provides families, little kids, and older people that usually would be too scared to bike the chance to connect with each other and the neighborhoods." Dom LeBarrett says, "This area wasn't really utilized before, and it's become a big part of the neighborhood that's bringing together culture, community, and urban design." Malik Roll, one of our budding entrepreneurs, said, "It's been an amazing experience having my business to sell snow cones and help my community by bringing positive vibes." And Edney Jean-Joseph, our Underline artist, you saw his mural. "It was truly special for me to have my art included in a public space that celebrates all of Miami. I feel seen." Here's my message to you. As my dad famously said, "If it's easy, it's not worth it." It's true, our work is not easy, but it's so worth it. We are privileged to be able to transform our communities and to improve the quality of life of hundreds of thousands of people. And I'm going to add, it is our privilege to have partners that empower us and enable us to do this work. We are a community. We're here to help you and support your work, but I have not done this alone. I want you to meet a few folks from our community, the Underline community. And I'd like to invite Daniel and Lucas from my board up. If I have any more board members, you are not allowed to be shy in this moment. You are going to come up here and join me on this stage. You are not allowed to be shy. Asima, Anna, Josue, and Mauricio, come up here, please. You are part of our community. My staff, I want all of you to stand up and come up here. Commissioner Higgins, the greatest champion you could ever hope for in the work that she does, not just for the Underline, but the county at large. We have Lily from the Knight Foundation, who's also my board member. Do we have Bernardo? Is Bernardo here? Yeah? No? Bernardo? Okay, he was trying to be shy. Not allowed. Did Ryan Gravel get here? Okay, well, Ryan's not here, but we had an event called Wheels 7 years ago, and we wanted the founder of the Atlanta Beltline, and then we didn't have any money for a hotel room. I'm like, I have a bedroom. So Ryan has another dubious honor of staying with my husband and me. So we have Bernardo, Lily, do we have Raul? And is Clyde here from the Atlanta Beltline? Bridget, come on up, you're part of, yep, yeah, you are. You helped us with reimagining the Civic Commons. Come on up. Anybody else who's helped us? We've asked you for help. You have showed up. You have sent us your work. Yes, Daniel, I didn't call you up. I think that you're part of my staff. I am so thankful for all of your help. And everybody thinks that this work is easy. And I think Asima said earlier about uncomfortable. One of the things that's taught me is to be very comfortable with being uncomfortable. Because every day there's a new challenge. But having you behind and catching me when I fall, it helps me get up in the morning and sleep at night. So thanks to every single one of you.
Thank you, Meg. That was fantastic. And I am now going to invite our panelists to the stage, including Meg Daly. So I will introduce, we have Commissioner Eileen Higgins from District 5 here in Miami-Dade County. Also welcoming to the stage Lily Weinberg from the Knight Foundation, who will be our moderator for this conversation today. Welcome, Lily. And can I have Marjorie Chavaria from the organization Before It's Too Late? Welcome. And Chezi de Quesada Covey, the Tech and Innovation Advisor. Hello for Miami-Dade County. Welcome, everyone. All right, and I will turn it over to Lily.
Fantastic.
Wow, it's all women.
It is all women talking about technology in the public realm. So I'm really excited. So my name is Lily Weinberg. I'm with the Knight Foundation. Meg, I would be remiss if I didn't say, I mean, that was really surreal, seeing you on the stage giving a keynote about the Underline. It's incredible what you've done for our community, and it's been just the greatest privilege to be on your board and to also be a partner with you in this work, with Knight Foundation, and every step of the way.
Can I respond? Am I on? I have a loud voice. I have to say that having believers is also one of the most empowering things I've ever experienced. And Lily very early said, you know, Meg, your project is unbelievable. I'm like, really? I have no idea. What are you talking about? And you saw, you were having people to be able to see into the future and not just share your vision, but be part of your vision and help define it. You are one of those people.
Well, it was amazing to see you and the progress. And I know all of us many of us played a role in that too. But thank you, Meg, for your leadership there. So we have roughly about 50-ish minutes together on this panel, and I'm excited to talk about public space and technology. So we have a mixture of experts here. Some techies, some not techies. I am not a techie. But I think what's really important to tease out in this conversation is that this is not about the technology. This is about people. Mm-hmm. This is about our community. This is making the connection to the community, making the connection to policy, Commissioner Higgins. And so that's gonna be the heart of the conversation today. And so before we dive in, I wanna say just a few words about Knight Foundation and what we do and kind of give you the why. Why do we care about this? So Knight Foundation, our mission is informed and engaged, thank you. And we really believe that community members need to have access to information and be engaged around that information in order to have a healthy, thriving democracy. We work in 26 Knight cities across the country. Of course, Miami is one of them. All places where we had Knight Ridder newspapers. And we invest in the future of cities for equitable, inclusive, engaged communities. We, in particular, have been very interested in place, public space. We use that loosely. So in this conversation, as we think about public space, we'll be talking about streets, sidewalks, parks. We use that loosely. But we're in particular interested in at the intersection of public space and technology. And what does that look like? What does that even mean, public space and technology? From Knight's perspective, we're interested in how that can inform decision making. Meg, you talked about the data that you're gathering. How does that inform the decisions you make for the Underline? We also talked about, we heard about resiliency. Mm-hmm. This is one of the most important issues that we're dealing with in our communities. How can technology in the public realm inform resiliency? How can it support community engagement? And then from Knight's perspective, how might it, we don't know, how might it support a thriving democracy? We're not sure, but we're exploring that topic. So with that, each of you has a different perspective. And so what I want to tease out is your insights from your expertise. And so Chezzy, it's nice to meet you. I know we actually haven't met in person, so I'm pinch hitting for my boss, Kelly Jin. And so it's really nice to meet you. I think you have a fascinating role. So we're going to start with you. And I'd love to hear a bit more about what you're seeing in Miami-Dade and beyond around the possibility of tech infrastructure unlocking community benefit. So you'll have about 5 minutes to kind of tease out to answer this question up to, and then we'll go question by question to each panelist. So I'll hand it off to you.
Thank you. It's so great to be here. It's wonderful. I was in New York earlier this week. I took the flight back last night, and the energy in New York is palpable. The city is sort of as energized as it's ever been, and it is so nice to be home. It is so nice to, even on the drive here, to look around and see the beauty that is Miami-Dade County, the incredible opportunities that we have, and the obligation. Meg, when you were speaking, you were talking about the opportunity and obligation that we have to really be constructing a region of the future, because we are the face of the future of the country in who we are. And so it is incredible to be here with all of you today. My perspective, I bring a unique perspective. I started my career in finance and decided to leave finance with the Great Recession because I wanted to get more involved with the people. I wanted to be more involved in direct work and found my way to work in the Obama administration. And my focus in the Obama administration was to work with technology companies in order to translate their needs and the needs of the American people into policy. Now, it was a different time. We're talking about 10 years ago, and technology companies were the darlings of a society. We looked at them as sort of the great innovators that were going to be coming. So if we go back in time to think about it, we really had a really close approach to the way that we were thinking about working with all companies, but specifically we were thinking about the big ones. And our focus in the Obama administration was, how do we translate the needs of the American people, steward those needs through the federal government, but work closely enough with technology companies that we can be speeding up innovations to affect change? So how do we really change outcomes for people based on what we're hearing from them? And I left the Obama administration to go work for Facebook. I still call it Facebook because I left Facebook when it was still Facebook, so Meta now. And my role at Facebook was to build business development teams focus on underserved users. And what underserved users for Facebook meant was users that weren't using the slew of products that Facebook offered. So I worked on connectivity projects. I was part of the team that helped launch that really cool, very lightweight airplane that only took one flight, but it was a very exciting flight. I was part of the team that was watching as a satellite went up into the air to beam down internet. That satellite, unfortunately, did not make it where it's supposed to go. I was part of the team that then started deploying Wi-Fi connectivity hotspots in Africa. From there, I moved on to work in Latin America. So I worked with Latin America developer partnerships, thinking about how you grow and scale developers, so workforce development in Latin America. And then I moved to our payments team, where I was thinking about globally how Facebook could think about payments product across the family of apps so that people could have lower cost transactions through the internet, which is access to capital. And as I was thinking about what I would do next, I had been at Facebook for a while, what drew me and what kept drawing me back to those projects at Facebook was the opportunity to get more and more local. Because change happens at local levels. I have worked in sort of big organizations and have seen the impact of how you can scale that change. But when you think about new ideas, they happen in local organizations. And so I had the opportunity to come and work in Miami-Dade County under the administration of Mayor Levine Cava, where I serve as her tech and innovation advisor. And my remit is a remit to think through how Miami-Dade County can leverage such this unique moment in time after the pandemic where we're seeing so many technology companies move here and grow here, and think about how we work together to create really great outcomes for Miami-Dade County residents. It's all grounded in the mayor's 4 E's: equity, engagement, economy, and environment. I always forget the last one, but it's very, very important, especially for public spaces. And thinking about how we can make sure that every single action we take with the public sector reflects those 4 E's. When it comes to public spaces, my big push is to think through about, we go back to the opportunity on the obligation. We are so lucky that we live in such a beautiful area with so many natural resources. It's one of our biggest assets. And so how do we turn our bay, our parks, the Everglades, our roadways into technology labs? And so one of the great things that I get to do is work really closely with Meg on the Linear Lab, but really thinking about how these public spaces, how we turn them into test labs so that we can really understand how we can address some of the systematic issues and challenges that we are facing as Miami-Dade County, as one of the first that will face it, but that all global cities will face. We're at the forefront of climate tech. And of climate issues. We are at the forefront of health issues and how we drive more equitable outcomes for people, so health tech. And then we are at the forefront of huge income inequality, and so how we think about financial services and fintech in order to really think about that equity piece that you all were thinking, that Knight invests so much in. We do this in 3 ways: policy. So how do we change policy to reflect the needs so that we can move faster? An example of this with big implications is limiting the amount of fertilizers that people can use so that there is less fertilizer in our waterways. We do this through people, which is a really important aspect that sometimes we forget about, but people are the ones that implement the policy. And so the mayor has been really clear about making sure that we have the right people in place. She recently hired a chief innovation and economic development so that we see both the combination of innovation and economic development. And then we do this through resources and deploying of technology. And that's where we think about how do we ensure that there is connectivity, how do we ensure that we use sensor technology, how do we ensure that we have charging stations for our EV vehicles. This is about using all public spaces to make sure that on the continuum of places where people interact with their environment, that we are constantly thinking about how we can be stewarding decision-making towards long-term equitable outcomes that focus on those 4 E's.
Amazing. A couple things struck me. You started with outcomes when you're in the federal government, and then you also, throughout your career, you're really focusing on the outcomes of the community and really that behavior change that I think that we're seeking to have, because that is ultimately an outcome. And there's so many different areas that you're tracking. I do want to dig a bit deeper into kind of the how, like how you are measuring that. I'm going to table that and get to the other panelists, but really, really fascinating what Miami-Dade is doing. So, Commissioner Higgins, we're going to move next to you. You are a decision maker as a commissioner, and also serving on many boards around mobility and making very expensive decisions around technology in the public realm. And so specifically, I want to ask you, how is technology already being used to improve the lives of residents? And in particular, in your answer, if you can tease out the equity piece, because I know that you're thinking a lot about that, whether it's affordable housing or connectivity.
Yeah.
So I hand it to you.
Well, thanks. It's great to be here with the best outdoor linear parks people in the world, and thanks for inspiring Meg so that she could build what I consider to be as the best linear park in the entire world, so there. It's a pleasure to support these kinds of initiatives. Let me just tell you, I mean, you all are here in Brickell. It's pretty fabulous, right? Part of my district. I represent a district that is reflective of what you read about in Miami in the newspaper, right? That we're the most inequitable city in the United States of America now. The cost of living and the cost of housing has zero correlation to the kinds of service sector jobs that people make working in the tourism industries or in hotels, right? And so, we're living the great, that we're really benefiting from lots of people leaving New York, leaving Chicago, leaving this to work from home here, but they're making their New York City $180,000 a year salary, and so they take an apartment at $5,000 a month. They think it's nothing. Our average median income is closer to $50,000 a year. And my district is completely representative of this. If you never leave Brickell, you're going to think everybody leaves pretty well here. I also represent Fisher Island, right? It's even worse or better, depending on your perspective. It's the richest zip code in the United States of America. And then should you choose to walk, as you walk to American Social, should you go a little bit further north by 4 blocks, you'll be in East Little Havana, where the average household income for a family of 4 is about $22,000 a year. So literally barely making ends meet in a community now where rents are going up dramatically. The other thing that's interesting about our community is relative to other places in the United States, we are one of the worst for green spaces. We just simply don't have them. And so, what the Underline team has done, we're literally stealing green space to give it back. We grew so fast as a community that we actually never bothered to plan. Anybody else live a place like that? And so we don't have the green spaces we need and that our residents deserve. So green spaces are absolutely key, and it's a core equity thing, particularly when I talk to you about East Little Havana, where our folks, we've done a number of events to try to make sure that folks that live up there know that they're literally 4 blocks from the Underline, because this neighborhood is a different world from the neighborhood they live in, yet they literally only have to walk 7 or 8 minutes to get to the Underline and transform that. The folks up there also don't have internet at home. They can't afford it. I serve on Florida's broadband task force. In the state of Florida, we have several 100,000, believe it or not, people that don't have access to high-speed internet. Many of them are in very rural communities. They literally couldn't get it if they had $1 billion, right? But in our case, theoretically, you could hook it up, but our families can't afford it. And that has been a big part of what Chelsea was talking about, Meg was talking about, making sure we're using our outdoor spaces as places where folks can have free, fast internet. And that's why it's crucial places like the Underline. We are now up to over 50 of our parks have free internet. Our libraries have always had free internet, but now we're doing it so that the parking lots are Wi-Fi. So let's say you get home from work at 11 o'clock and you need to do something, you can actually just go to the parking lot of a library, which generally are pretty safe spots to be either in a car or on foot and get access. So I think we need to begin to think about how does technology bring people together in an equitable fashion. And I think a lot about transportation. As you said, I'm on kind of every transportation mobility committee that I think the country has, which sometimes keeps me, like last night, my flight getting in pretty late. But this quality of life is about where you live, where you work, and how you get to those places, right? And what we're finding more and more in our bigger cities is the cost of living is driving you so far away from where you work, and transportation hasn't caught up with that. And I always say that affordable housing near reliable public transportation is even more affordable because you literally don't need a car to go anywhere. And so we are right here along all of our transit corridors and even along the Underline. I broke down 2 weeks ago on a 465 unit affordable and workforce housing building. It's 5 minutes from our train and 5 minutes from now a park with the Underline. And all of our housing units are now coming fully equipped, with access to the internet. So technology is something that has to happen because Pre-pandemic, I don't think we thought about it in the way we do now, but you can't go to a doctor if you can't connect. You can't study if you can't connect, right? Sometimes you can't even work if you can't connect. And then when you begin to look at how we are bringing people together on the Underline, you're engaging them differently and making sure they're feeling connected to community. So as you mentioned, I'm the least techie person here. And quite frankly, I really want people when they're Underline not connected to any technology. I want them actually experiencing for once a green space where there used to be dead space. But the reality is we're a connected society, and if we don't connect folks, they're not even going to know to come to the Underline. And so that is how we learn about things, and it is how we engage with our community, and it's pretty crucial. And then the county's doing all kinds of other cool, super nerdy things, right? Like we are spending about $200 million on, we call it ATMS, Advanced Traffic Management System. Essentially means every traffic light in our entire county, and I forget there's a lot of them, 270,000, don't quote me on that if there's any fact checkers in here, but anyway, there's a lot, that we are going to be turning into smart signals, and that process has already begun, and that essentially means the traffic lights are going to be able to know when a cyclist is there. They're also going to know when there's cars here, but no cars here. So why wouldn't you just change the light to green? Let these people go. And so technology is also a way of addressing the safety issues on our street. And I think you're in a county we're really, I think, looking forward. As with all governments, we're always behind. But I think, and it in part is because it takes a long time to get those investments processed, but I don't think you're going to lack for support on technological innovations that make our community a better place to live.
I don't think so, but I want to tease this out just for a second and weave in, Chuzzy, what you were saying around like defining those outcomes and Commissioner Higgins, you're talking about some really big projects that are expensive, and you have constituents that you have to speak to and speak to the cost. So tell me about. I just want to tease out a little bit more when you have this technology has a really high upfront cost. If we can talk about the sensors, but it can often pay off in the life cycle. So I just if you can just take a minute to just tell me a little bit more about how you make that case.
I mean, I think it's hard to explain to the general public, right? We're spending. I'll give you another example. The Metro Mover. Many of you may have ridden our little Metro Mover, and probably you had a good experience. But we're spending $150 million to upgrade the control system because it's quite elderly. The one we've got going on, the knob twisting, and I'm not even sure it's digital. Whatever, it runs our little baby train. But it's not gonna be what we need for the future, right? You probably don't notice this, but it can only go in one direction. Okay, that seems weak. But it can only go in one direction. 40 years ago, we thought that was a good idea. So upgrading this system of $150 million, by the way, it's inconvenient. It means we're shutting the Metro Mover down. You don't get to get on it some Saturdays till 11 a.m. because it's open heart surgery to do this on our little mover system. But at the end of the day, you're going to have a reliable system. I'm going to be able to create multiple routes for you. I'm going to be able to connect the Metro Mover to Miami Beach, and I'm going to be able to expand the Metro Mover up to the design district. And that means you're going to go more places more quickly. You're not going to need a car. It's all electrified. It's better for the environment. And so you have to make those cases. And then quite frankly, you have to fight on the county commission for your projects. Like, I'm not confused. I'm not all cheery happy, right? I fight. So this is important. It matters because you don't get your way. I'm one of 13 people, and the mayor can announce something. The mayor has no control over the budget. If we don't fund it on the commission, she doesn't get to do it, right? She's a nice lady. You all met her last night. We love her. But the commission has the power of the purse. And so the mayor has to sell her ideas to us, and I have to sell the technology I need to get this community moving, which is my number one priority, is transportation, right? I have to sell it to my colleagues and convince them that a huge investment, you know, just 2 of the projects I've championed in the past 2 years, it's like $500 million. I mean, that's a lot of money, right? You've got to be able to sell your ideas to your colleagues as well as to the people in order to show them we're gonna do it now, and it's gonna pay off 5 years from now.
Thank you. And just for our audience, there are some very, very interesting federal grants that are out there they're called SMART grants that are actually piloting technology in the public realm around mobility. So ways that there are pockets of dollars going towards this. Thank you, Commissioner Higgins. So we've built up. You know, Chezzy's really leading around the innovation piece at a county level. Commissioner Higgins, you are decision maker, kind of deciding on where we invest things, of course, with your other fellow commissioners. And Marjorie, I want to hear about your work as a practitioner on the ground. You are with Before It's Too Late, and you're really pioneering work at the intersection of arts, technology, STEM, and I'd love to hear a little bit more about your projects and what you're hearing and learning from the community, because I think that your work would be very applicable to many of the members in the room.
Thank you.
Let's hear it.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk about our current project. So currently we are working in collaboration with the Everglades Foundation to create an augmented reality app for Homestead's new public park, Losner Park. And Homestead is unique because it's the only city in the US that sits between 2 national parks, the Everglades and Biscayne Bay. So we wanted to highlight the biodiversity and educate the community on why the Everglades is important. So we created a scavenger hunt where you get to experience and interact with these species from both national parks. You get to learn all about their habitat, diet, behavior, ecosystem service. You can interact with them by feeding them and making them dance. And I have some samples as well in the other slides, but I do want to move into our intro video to the game because it kind of dives deep into the Everglades topic.
Let's see it.
Oh, it's the second video on the first slide. No. The slide that we were on. Go back. Right, on the right. That's the video.
The green leaves are.
Yeah, the green leaves.
Technology.
Yeah,
All right.
I know.
I'm so
The
sorry.
anticipation.
Yeah, it was.
You want to tell us a bit about what we would have seen?
Yeah, well, basically, it introduces the Everglades, you know, to the children, and it talks about why the Everglades it's important because it provides water to 8 million people in Florida. And it talks about the biodiversity of the Everglades as well, and it prompts the kids to join the safari and save the animals, collect them, because there's 2 parts to this. So go back to one slide, please. No. Yes, right here. So this is what the game actually looks like. If you look at the middle picture, you'll see interactive buttons. And the yellow buttons are what teaches you about their habitat, their ecosystem service, their behavior.
It's up there.
Okay. Yeah. And then at the bottom, you will see interactive buttons. And that's where you can feed them, you can dance with them, and then you are prompted for a trivia question. Yeah. And that's how you discover them. If the user doesn't know the answer, they can minimize the screen, and then they go back to the yellow buttons to actually look for their answer as well. I don't know if the second video is going to work, but this is the raw version after we finished coding and designing the 3D assets of what it looks like in the park.
Okay, let's see if it works. And
a few seconds. Yeah. Maybe not.
We'll table it. But I would like to tease out a little bit about what you're saying, because I think this is really interesting. So as as a mother of two little boys who love to go into public space. I mean, you're talking about experiential learning,
Yes.
and really having, I think all ages, but children in particular, experience the environment. Could you just tell me a little bit more about that, like that learning piece, that opportunity that we have in our cities?
So with our work, we realize that art is a powerful tool to engage the community, especially children, to plant that seed for the environmental concerns that are going on in Miami. Especially in Homestead, being so special that it sits between two national parks, we wanted to bring that to the community. You're so close to these two amazing national parks with all these incredible species.
Yeah.
And we wanted to kind of like introduce that to them so they can get motivated to visit the Everglades,
Yeah.
to visit the Biscayne Bay Park, and get involved with sustainability and doing
Yeah.
something for our Everglades.
So linking it to the
Yes.
bigger picture.
Yes, definitely.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Meg, I mean, I'm thinking about the app that, the digging and for the underline.
Digging and learning.
Yes, digging and learning. I think that's right up this alley. Thank you, Marjorie. And so I have a few kind of cross-cutting questions. I do want the audience to think about your questions too, because we will, in the last 10 minutes, open it up and be able to take a few questions. But in the meantime, I'd love to dig into a few different areas, and I want to start with you, Meg. You gave this amazing presentation, keynote on the Underline, that technology was a part of it, but certainly not everything about it. And but you said something that I already tweeted. Big projects solve big problems. Big projects solve big problems. And then you listed all the different areas, Chezzy, many of the areas that you had already listed. And so I want to understand how you see technology kind of cross-cutting all of this. You talked a little bit about the linear lab idea, Chezzy did too. So tell me a bit more about what you're thinking about for the linear lab.
I'll get there.
Yeah.
But I want to first tell you that I'm probably the least technologically savvy person. Eileen saw me pull up today in my daughter's Tesla, and I said, "Do you need my phone for you to park my car?" I mean, I had no idea what to do. And the guy says, "You can just leave it here." But I met with Alberto Ibargüen for lunch 3 years ago. And because we never have enough to do on the Underline, I said, "Alberto, we have this idea that we imbue technology into everything on the Underline, like our trails or the connective tissue. Technology can be a connective tissue. It can be a binding agent of all the various priorities and layers that we have." And I kept talking. And after about 5 minutes, he said, "You had me 5 minutes ago. Why did you keep talking?" And then it was like, well, what do you do? Because when you're pioneering, what's the first step?
Yeah.
And Knight, you're one of those best-in-class partners. Not only do you provide funding, but you also provide guidance, and it's a rare combination, I think. And you said what you guys need is a vision plan, which is what we did with the Underline for our design vision, with James Corner Field Operations, with our art plan. You need a tech master plan. And you need someone other than you, Meg, who can't even drive a Tesla, to help you figure that out. So you provided funding for a chief technology officer. And that tech master plan, we worked with an all-women-owned consultancy out of New York called Urban Sense. And they sort of helped us, come up with that roadmap of how technology folds into, because I was like, here's the big idea. And they helped us figure out, I think, here's how you do it. And I mentioned before, the first thing they said is you need ubiquitous Wi-Fi, which was not an easy task because we had no money to do it.
Yeah.
And we didn't have the conduit plan for construction in order to lay the fiber for the technology. And so Hotwire came in And as Patrice says, be careful, when you give something to Meg because she'll ask for more. And so, yeah, we'll help with, Brickell Backyard. And now they're providing free Wi-Fi for 10 miles.
Yeah.
Right? So those are those partnerships that make these things happen. And then one of the overarching visions, I think, for the Tech Master Plan was to use the Underline as a platform for testing. Because we have 9 million people passing through there eventually, 120 acres. We are in that place that has issues with healthcare, with climate, with financial literacy, the things you talked about, Chezi. And how can the Underline provide the place that can be the testing ground for those applications? Sure, we could be, trying to write all this code ourselves, but we tried that, and it's very expensive. So the Dig and Learn application was written by the Magic at Miami-Dade College by faculty and students, and that's that AR app for kids to learn about history and place. We started a project called My Line, which would help all of you eventually program your community-based events. So those community-based organizations can actually program your place without having to call you, send you an email, provide their insurance, all those things, the 14 times we have to have a conversation to get a free yoga class. And so that was being done by SparkDev with it, which is FIU. But that free funding only goes so far. Mm-hmm. And so the idea for the Linear Lab is that we can say, all of you people throughout the world and in Miami-Dade County who are trying to use technology to solve our big problems, come here. Yeah. This is your place. It's like we're looking at the Underline as a small city. And because of the diversity of our population, you really can check some boxes on demographics and psychographics and types of people instead of, because we're so cutting through a large swath of the county.
So you said a platform for testing, which I think is very applicable to this audience that's working on really large open space projects. Yep. A platform for testing, a platform for innovation. Chezi, so I with your technical expertise, I want to understand from your perspective, some of the challenges around this work. And I mean, I know that there's privacy concerns, there's the expense. Could you just lay out a bit more about some of the challenges, which of course lead to opportunities, but would love to hear from you on that.
So expense is definitely a big challenge. Privacy is a big challenge. How people...
Can you tell us what particularly around privacy? Because I'm not sure everyone really understands the privacy issue.
So every time that you engage with any sort of software, that company, that organization that's behind the software is storing information of how you interact with that software. And that applies when you enter a space and there are beacons that are tracking how many people are coming in. That also applies for when you're on your kayak app and you are trying to book travel. They will see exactly we call it events data. And so every event that you take on an app or every event that you take with some piece of technology that uses software tracks every action that you take. And so there's a question about who stores that data, who owns that data, who is responsible for that data. I do think, though, that with expense and with privacy, the federal government is moving in the right directions, and they are creating regulation around this. They are creating grants around this. That even though those are issues, for me, those aren't the biggest issues. Those are just, we're working through it. We have the roads in place now, and now it's about putting sort of the traffic lights and understanding what the limitations are. And especially the Biden administration has a great team that is really thinking about sort of how you put those rules in place. The biggest challenge in technology is getting people to adopt technology and try something new. That is the biggest challenge. And that happens for anything, right? If you think about when the radio first launched or the telephone first launched, you know, people that are in tech, when you launch a new product, the first thing, there's going to be some post that eventually takes you back to an ad in the New York Times talking about why the telephone is so bad for you. And it justifies why you're launching your new product. With every single technology, there has been naysayers for the new technology. And that creates a hesitancy to adopt that new technology, which is really hard to get people to start using it and then to learn from it. Because no technology, when it launches, is going to be the right one. We need to have this constant feedback loop to understand from people what they want and how to deliver a bigger product. And so for opportunities that come in Miami-Dade, our challenge is how do we listen to people, build technology based on what they're saying, and then explain it back to them in ways that they want to enjoy it, that they want to use it, and that they're going to derive utility out of it. Because if people don't derive utility out of a technology, you will spend a lot of money building something that will go nowhere. And so this idea of sort of, if you build it, they will come, which, you know, Google and Facebook coined, is not true. If you build it, they will not come.
Right.
It's if you listen to people, understand their needs, build it, and then work with them to understand how to implement it.
So resident-driven, building it with the community, and
Education
education, and I guess engagement around that.
and awareness.
Yeah. Commissioner Higgins, I just want to see, do you have any reaction to what Chezzy said in particular around the...
No, I think the last thing you said was the thing that resonated most with me is, and every now and then, you know, I always call it technology running amok. Like, I don't need that, right? And this is not making my life better, it's making my life worse.
Yeah.
Like, particularly for me, for the public sector, like when I spend money on technology, I'm spending your money. Like, you have taken your hard-earned money and you have given it to me in government. Like, government is only what you take out of your wallet so that we can collectively make your lives better, right? Whether it's better streets or more trees or better parks or improved library services or, you know, police and fire services, running a lovely hospital, all that crap. We need it, we need it, we need it. But it's your money. And so if I'm spending one thin dime on technology that doesn't solve a community problem, that is not something in the public sector we can do. The private sector can do whatever it wants. But we have to be making sure we are looking for solutions that collectively make the lives of our residents better.
So starting with that community
So
problem.
starting with what they need,
Yeah.
and that we haven't found another way to solve that problem. And I think if you're always rooted in the resident, you'll always be looking for the right technological solutions.
Okay. Well, we have a few minutes left, so let's open up to the audience. Any questions for our esteemed panelists? Would love to hear from y'all.
I've got to sneak out. Is it your turn? Yeah, it's my time.
Don't be shy. Come on.
I'll see you tomorrow night.
Okay. Oh, here we go. Dennis. Is that Dennis? Hey.
Y'all are amazing. Meg, congratulations on the work you're doing.
Thank you, Dennis.
Everybody. I do want to push back because I think our strength is actually being the antidote to technology and selective empathy and hyper-partisanship and the things that are actually tearing us apart in society right now, especially through social media and those kinds of things that are echo chambers, and how we can play a role of actually bringing people together. And we interact and we actually don't hate each other. You know, we can be good people. We're miles of smiles of linear park that we're developing, sanctuaries of sanity. You know, so how do we, obviously we have to interact somewhat with technology, but we can be different and we can actually be better than.
I hear you. And Dennis, can you just say what organization you're with?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I work on the East Coast Greenway, so building those miles of smiles from Maine to Florida.
And so I want to acknowledge we are not, at the core of this is not about technology, right? This is about the community and how technology can serve community within our green spaces. But Meg, I know you are eager to respond to this.
I'm dying.
So please.
Give it to me.
Good question.
Put me in, coach. And Dennis, thank you so much. The Underline is proudly part of the East Coast Greenway, and I can't wait until the whole 2,000 miles, 3,000 miles are done, right? It's amazing.
Yeah.
I am also the grandmother of 2 young children, and what I think this is all about is choices. And there are people, you can come to the Underline, you can go to the East Coast Greenway, you can turn your phone off. You don't have to be in touch, you can detach, but you can also have the choice. If I want to go to the Underline and stream something or be able to run my small business, which is coming to the Underline, I have the ability to do it. So it's seeing it as one of the layers that have benefits, that you have the choice to turn it off. Just like you have the choice to not come to the Underline, right? But if you want to be able to access technology, we think you should be able to. I think that public spaces, weaving in technology, whether it through art and tech, whether it be through climate tech, whether it be through all of these things, whether it be through mobility solutions and safety, it's going to happen, right? So this is the space that we live in. We should be part of driving that vision. But I want to just cut back one quickly. I think one of the challenges to working with technology is co-creation. I think it's very hard to hear from people what they really want when they don't know what it is. So thinking into the future, co-creating something you have no idea what it's going to be in a pioneering space is very difficult. I think trust is very difficult. You know that more than I do, certainly.